Teamwork and a determination to drive weed numbers down to zero are central to Mark Sando's weed control program. Mark works closely with his agronomist Mick Faulkner to grow more crop and fewer weeds.
The science says that unless we get greater than 92% weed control, we're actually not going to reduce the seed burden and the weed burden therefore in the future. So that's been the minimum, but I think we're now saying that we have to have 100% control. So if a herbicide only gives us 92% control or less, then we have to make sure we've got another way of getting that last 8%.
I guess initially that we were trying to control the weeds either by leaving paddocks out, having a pasture, growing a hay paddock, but now with technology we're able to do it by continuously cropping.
The impact of GPS has been that we are now got a way of mapping weeds far more easily than in the past. It used to have to be manually done and very difficult to find weeds and then to record where they were and go back and do something about them. GPS now allows farmers, and Mark does a great job of finding where the weeds are, mapping them and then taking some action in those patches. Dropping a flag is great in a way that it tells you perhaps the centre of where that weed incursion is, but it doesn't tell you the extent. And so I guess by marking lines and areas, you can actually map it to a greater extent and then be able to come back and do something, whether it's an alternative herbicide or cutting it for hay or even just pulling it out if you've got enough labour.
So now that we're able to use the GPS and pinpoint the weeds, we're actually making sure that we do get the whole area without doing more area than we need to.
Working with his advisor Mick Faulkner, Mark uses 7 or 8 weed management strategies at any one time to keep weed numbers low. And he has adopted a variety of tactics and technologies over the years to stay on top of the game.
I think Mark has been narrow windrow burning canola for 30 years, as most of the farmers in this area have. So it's extremely effective. I guess the issue that has come to bear on narrow windrow burning of canola is if we're in full stubble retention systems, the previous year there can be that much stubble from the wheat that we lose control of that narrow windrow burning. We burn the whole paddock anyway. We see burning as a strategic tool. We don't advocate necessarily that people go out and burn, but if they need to have burning as a tool and use it strategically, or if they're not using it, what are the other things they're doing to take the place of burning that actually work in reducing weeds? So we have to do the best that we can with crop competition, making sure we get crop competition early because that limits the early growth of weeds, but also crop competition at the other end of the year so that if there are any surviving weeds, that the seed production is very, very low off them. In this environment for ryegrass, the competitive nature of the crops we grow is really to sow them early. Late sowing favours ryegrass, it likes the colder, wet conditions, and Mark is an early sower, so we get competition by sowing early. We get a new leaf developed every 6 or 7 days by sowing in April on a wheat crop, whereas that might take 12 or 13 days if we were sowing in late May. Mark needs to be able to confidently dry sow his whole farm if necessary, knowing that weeds aren't going to be an issue. Seeding herbicides are the key. We don't have any post-emergent herbicides other than clethodim really that we can use for ryegrass control in this area. We are totally reliant in terms of herbicides for ryegrass control on pre-seeding, but the most important thing is to make sure that we use them effectively, and if there are any survivors, that we have an alternative strategy at the other end of the year. We'd like to use the preams when there are no weeds. They maintain low weed numbers or no weed numbers rather than trying to reduce weeds.
Summer weed control is quite difficult here without having the sheep, because we always seem to get survivors, whereas if you've got the sheep, that they will clean up those surviving plants, and even things particularly like melons that are hard to kill, the sheep, if they use the herbicide, then the sheep will actually stop them from coming.
It is absolutely critical to use more than to use all the array of weed control options we've got, and we can think of 13, and we have to have at least 7 of those operating at any one time to be successful. And if we drop one out, we have to then say, well, what are we replacing that with?
Well, I guess the old policy, if you're on a good thing, don't stick to it. So we feel confident about what we're doing at the moment, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's what we'll be doing in 4, 5, 6 years' time. So you have to be extremely flexible with farming as you do with most things.